6461. That's 770-988-6461. And you can also on Facebook send me some comments. I need some love today. I see someone already put a heart of love, and I need love today and support as we talk about this show and we talk about mental health wellness in you in 2018. Mental health wellness in you. So we're going to first begin with our therapeutic moment reading, and I'm going to read from the Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. That's Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And the text says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be by the renewing of your minds, so that you may discern what is the will of God and what is the good, acceptable, and perfect. And I want to focus in on verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, so that you may discern what is the will of God and what is good, acceptable, and perfect. So today's show, we're going to talk about the spiritual benefits of counseling. And I know that this show is all about counseling. It's all about being therapeutic. It's all about mental health and wellness and all of those type of things. And we're going to be focusing today on that and talking about that. But I want to begin with a word of prayer and blessings over the show. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this moment and this time. God, we thank you for all that you're doing in us, through us, around us, as us, God, that we are your vessels and you breathe and move through us, God. And we thank you this morning for life. We thank you for this radio show, 108 Praise Radio. We thank you for all the staff that's here, God. And this is a new year and a new time, God. But help us even during this show that we will be able to get our minds together, that we may be able to receive all the things that we need to receive and do all the things that you've called us to do for such a time as this. And I'm grateful for the show. I'm just grateful for all of the supporters, all the people that are finding out about the show, that have spoken good words to me. And I'm just grateful this morning for all that you have done and all that you get ready to do in this new year. We give thanks today and praise for everything. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So good morning to everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I want to just begin talking about the theme, mental health wellness in you. And first I want to give a good shout out to everybody who has been very supportive of me, who has really supported me and helped me, and that have encouraged me. But I do want to say this. A lot of people are going around saying to me, they'll start off and they'll say, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do? And they'll say, well, I do therapy, counseling. And so as I'm even kind of talking about the things that I do, people say, oh, that's good and that's so needed. And what I want to say about that is, yes, it's good and yes, it's needed. But I also want people to understand that the work, it takes finances to even do the work that we do and that we're called to do. So I want to talk a little bit about at the beginning of this show about, because I do a lot of things, but I want to talk about my own foundation. I have a foundation which is a nonprofit called the Foundation for Therapeutic and Spiritual Empowerment Services. And basically, during our nonprofit, our whole mission is to help educate persons dealing with mental health, to bring mental health awareness. The purpose of this show is to bring mental health awareness. We need so much mental health awareness in our community, just from the government and all the things that are going on, trickling down to our state government, trickling down to to just all kinds of things that are going on in our world. People are really hurting. And that's what I want to start with when we talk about the spiritual benefits of mental health. But during our foundation, I do want people to understand and know that we are helping people to raise awareness. Everything that we do here on the show is about raising people's awareness, and that we're talking about the importance of mental health. And so when we talk about the spiritual benefits of counseling, such as the foundation, such as the Joshua Generation Care and Consulting Services, which is my practice, and you can also look us up on our website at www.joshua-generation.net. That's www.joshua-generation.net. We see so many things that we're doing. We're going to be doing some groups. We're going to be doing all kinds of things to get the message out there so people will know about mental health and how important it is. All right. Now that I've gotten all that out the way, I want to really deal with today the topic, the spiritual benefits of counseling. The spiritual benefits of counseling. So as I was thinking about this topic, I began to kind of think about the fact that a lot of us, and I was looking at I was definitely looking at the Bible, and I was also looking at my own experience and my own understanding of things. And as I began to look at things, I began to look at and kind of ask myself the question about, there was a time in our world where we sought counsel, that we began to look at people that were wise. Even in the Bible, they talked about wise kings and wise men and also women. Let's include women in there, even though they may not have said it during that particular time. Of course, we have wise men and wise women. A lot of times we don't seek counsel. We really don't get feedback. In my chaplain world, we call it consultation. And I think that we are really missing out on a lot when we don't get the proper counsel, we don't get the proper feedback, and we don't get the proper consultations. And that's what I want to begin talking about when we talk about the spiritual benefits. There is something spiritual about also getting good feedback, getting good counsel, having someone that you can go to for support, but also not just always support, but what we call it is constructive criticism. And a lot of times people are not getting that. Now, I was thinking about this as people are preaching and teaching in the church. A lot of times it's always a one-sided situation. It's not a conversation. It's not something that's generally going back and forth. Generally, a pastor, a minister, bishop gets up and they preach, and you hear what they have to say. Like today, you're hearing what I have to say. But it is also of great benefit that ministers also get feedback. Because if we do not get feedback, we do not understand how people are receiving our messages, we never know how effective we are. So what I mean by that is, as a message is being preached, and I had the opportunity, and I'm so honored, a few weeks ago to preach on a Sunday morning at Victory for the World Church. So shout out to Victory for the World Church, where the pastor is Dr. Kenneth L. Samuel in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I had a wonderful time to preach, and I talked about a message of the power of a transformed mind. And it was such a blessing to be able to share with that congregation about, that we can't even, and the premise of that message was, we can't even hear God properly. And I just read it in the Romans text, that we can't even hear God properly unless our minds are clear and situated. And in order for us to get to a place of clarity and hearing God, hearing Spirit talk to us and deal with us, we got to work on our minds. A lot of us have made New Year's resolutions today. This year, 2008, I've heard people going around saying it's going to be my year, that people are going to do all kinds of great things. I heard people saying that they're going to be a millionaire. I've heard people going around saying that they're going to do this and do that and be this and be that, which I think is wonderful. But if your mindset is not right, your mentality is not right, There's no way that you're going to be able to walk in the fullness and receive all the things that God has for you. So a lot of times we just do the same thing every year and we get trapped in the same thing every year because we do not allow ourselves, our minds to change. What happened to the people of Israel? I call it a grasshopper mentality. They said that there were giants in the land, and they began to really see themselves being defeated. So how many people out here are seeing yourself as being defeated? And we constantly have to work with our minds, because the mind is the activity of all, it is the center of all activity. Everything that goes on that deals with our minds, it is the seat of activity there. So we have to begin to work with our minds. I even tell some of my clients, we have to begin to even be therapeutic with our own selves. Talk to ourselves in a loving and a caring way. A lot of times we don't even talk to ourselves in a loving and caring way. We don't even be supportive of ourselves in a loving, caring way. And so I just want you to be encouraged today to know that there are spiritual benefits of counseling. But number one, we have to seek, counseling helps us to seek wisdom. That's the point that I'm making. That's point number one. Help us to seek wisdom. It's all biblical when we're talking about seeking wisdom. And I think that that's what we're missing in our communities today. We're missing the fact that a lot of people, even some of our young people, are not seeking wisdom. I remember growing up, and my aunt used to tell me, don't touch the hot stove. And I was always wondering, why in the world that I can't go and touch the hot stove? I mean, you know, is she trying to just control me or trying to not let me do something and things like that? And I began to really think about it, and I went over there and I touched the hot stove, and of course I got burned. But they constantly told me, don't touch the hot stove. That was wisdom. But what happened, I had to go and test it out, and I had to go and touch the hot stove, and I got burned. But guess what? From that experience, I learned a lot about life. And then from that point on, I began to listen to some of my elders. I began to listen to what they were saying to me. So mentally, let's look at that example as, you know, from a mental standpoint. I began to look at that mentally, and I began to say to myself, okay, I don't need to be touching that hot stove, and I need to pay attention more. And maybe that's a new word for somebody today. You need to pay attention, because maybe this, and I know I may be in trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Maybe God is not going to give you anything new. Maybe God is asking you to use the tools that you've been already given. Maybe God is saying, use what I've given you for such a time as this, and I don't need to give you anything new. Because I was thinking about this. People walking around saying they want to be millionaires. And I think that's wonderful. I think everybody should definitely be a millionaire. I really do. You know, I think everybody should be anything that they want to be in reason. But I am going to say this, though. If you can't handle $1,000, how are you going to handle $1 million? I just want you to think about it today. I know I'm talking, preaching a little bit, and saying all kinds of stuff. But if you can't handle $1,000, how are you going to handle mentally and spiritually, because it's all connected, how are you going to handle $1 million? All right? Some of us don't even pay our bills with $1,000. How are we going to pay our bills with $1 million? But guess what? The gift is this. You can get your mind right and start doing the things that you need to do with what you have. And I think that we're living in a world and we're living in a system today where we have to begin to use what we have. God has given us so many resources. God has given us strength and life and creativity and visualization and ideas that always come to us. I think we got to begin to use the things that we have. But guess what? If we don't use it properly, we will never use it properly when our minds aren't clear. The text says in Romans 12 and verse 2, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's all I'm saying today is that there are spiritual benefits of counseling, but counseling starts with helping you with your mind. Many of us have faced so many situations in our lives. We've been hurt. Some of us have been molested. Some of us have been all kinds of different things that, we can experience it. Some of us have been homeless. Some of us have been told that we're not anything, that we're not going to be anything, that we're not going to, all kinds of stuff that people have told us even when we were younger, that we would never be anything, that we would never do anything, that we would never say anything. And we've been told that, and we've accepted that mentally, which then, guess what, affects our spirit. If a child is being told that they can't do something, or that they're not like someone else, and I know in a lot of families we compare each other, brothers and sisters and cousins, and I remember growing up, and no offense to my family, but they would say, well, your cousin is like this, or your cousin is successful, and you're not, or you're not going to be that, or they would praise one cousin or one family member, not just cousin, but one family member, and then they wouldn't praise the other family member. Or they would say comments like, you're not smart enough, but yet the other cousin is smart enough because they're able to go to college and do the things that they can do. Notice what the seeds that are being planted, and they're being planted mentally, but then it also affects your spirit. That's what I'm talking about. When things are being planted in your mind, and people are very negative, people are not always out to help us and to support us. But mentally, whatever affects you mentally will also affect you spiritually. And I'm loving the love that I'm getting. I know I'm preaching up on here, you all. But shouts out to my cousin, Angela Holmes Epps is on. Lorraine is on, thank you. And Jasmine Sutherland, thank you for supporting me and watching me. I appreciate you, all of you all. But the point is, we got to get our minds right. And that's what I'm trying to say. I know I'm saying a whole lot today and everything, but I'm really saying this in love because we got all these New Year's resolutions. All of us have said, oh, I'm going to be better. But if we don't change our mentality, our mindsets, and part of that begins with accepting yourself. How can you expect others to love and care for you and support you when you don't support yourself? When you don't speak words of love and care and support to yourself? Constantly, I'm loving on myself. Constantly, I'm speaking words of affirmation to myself. Because sometimes all of us get discouraged. Leaders get discouraged. People get discouraged. It's not easy even being in ministry, we get discouraged. So I just want you all to really listen in and really zone in on that everything that affects your mental capacity also affects your spirit. And that's what we're talking about today, the benefits of counseling, but I'm starting off talking about the mind. The mind has so many things that we do not. And guess what? There's also a positive thing about the mind, too, is that people say you can do whatever you put your mind to do. And I don't want us to miss out on the things that God has opened up, the doors that God has opened up for us through our minds, through our spirits. Everything is connected. So this year, watch what people are saying. Watch what people are you allowing people to say over your life. Watch some of the places and things we're getting information. Because just watching the news alone sometimes can be traumatic. And I'm not saying don't stay informed. Don't get me wrong now. But I am saying that we all need to be clear about what we're going to focus on. Because a lot of things are distractions, and it's distracting our minds. It's out. Everything is out to get our minds, to get control over our minds of what we think, because all of that affects our spiritual being. If you look at God, for example, as an angry God, I remember growing up, and I mean, no offense, and when I make comments about my family or comments about my experience, this is not an attack on anybody. I want to be very clear about that. I'm just talking about my experience because and I'll talk about that at the end, hopefully, because I did go home for Christmas and see my family, and I love my family. But I'm just talking about my experience. That's what I'm dwelling on. But as I was thinking about this, a lot of times people are caught up in what they hear. And when you're constantly being told that you don't measure up, or you're constantly being told that you're not good enough, or you're constantly being told that whatever you do don't matter, because everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. Everybody wants to know that they matter. And I just want you to sit with that, even some difficult people to deal with. I think that we got to know that they are children of God as well. Even though we may not agree with everything that everybody does and say, we have to know that people matter. You may not understand everything that everybody do. There's a lot of things I do, probably people don't understand, and I say, and they look at me like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? But the fact of the matter is, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to yourself. And I think that helps you mentally. So this is what this show is all about. I know I got a little preachy this morning. I've been preaching. But I just had to really tell, because I want people to have the best. You're awesome, and you deserve the best. You deserve the best. A best. And I want everyone out there that's listening, know that you deserve the best. But know that sometimes we got to seek counsel. We gotta be open. And I want to say this before we take a break. In order to grow, you have to be open to constructive criticism. You almost have to be open to sometimes being controversial. Because even this show, as I'm thinking about it, is controversial. Because we don't talk about mental health. We don't even address mental health a lot of times, especially in our spiritual centers and churches. So I really just want people to know that sometimes you got to be cutting edge. And even my family and people that have known me know that Brian Jones has always been cutting edge. Brian has always been semi-controversial, and I've always followed my own beat. I don't know. I mean, that must be something that God had given me from the beginning, that I always follow my own beat and my own way. Jasmine, I know you know that. I've always followed my own beat and my own way. Dr. Fran says, all right, now watch it. But anyway, I'm just talking today to you all because I want people to get the support that they need. Everybody needs counseling. Everybody needs an assessment. Everybody, my cousin Angela said, so true. All right, family, you better watch it. But anyway, the point, I'm having so much fun today. I tell you, I appreciate you all, even though I'm preaching today. But I want to help somebody. I really do. Because we got to work on ourselves. Mental health wellness in you. The mental health wellness begins with you. And that's the most important thing, that you begin with yourself. You can't even understand God until you understand some parts of yourself. God has created you, but you can't even hear God. You can't even, and it's right in the text. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. You can't even discern what the will of God is for you if you don't have a clear mind. Because guess what? If you're not hearing clearly from God or from Spirit, you then are hearing something else. A lot of times that's not God. That's not helpful. That's not supportive. And so we got to be very careful. Now listening to wisdom, you got to listen to godly wisdom and wisdom that is going to benefit you. I mean, I want to definitely say that now. You don't listen to everything, just, because sometimes people that are elderly and wise are not always wise. I mean, they're elderly, but they're not wise. Dr. Francis, I love it. Transparency is the key to the beginning to understand yourself. Yes, And that's why I'm on here talking today about myself. That's why I didn't have a guest today, because I really wanted to lay this foundation about the spiritual benefits of counseling. All right, so I love it. Love the comments. But transparency is important. All right, but as we begin to take a break, a few minutes break, I just want to recap everything that I've been saying. And basically, we're talking about mental health wellness in you, that we need to get our mental health straight and together. Secondly, there's spiritual benefits of counseling. And the first benefit, and I'm going to get to, I may not even finish this today, but seeking godly wisdom and counsel. And in the Old Testament, there were wise men. Even during the time of Jesus, they said the wise men came and presented Jesus with gifts. They were wise people. They understood some things. And sometimes we got to get constructive feedback, not destructive feedback now, but constructive feedback to help us and to support us in our journey. And that's all I'm saying. But don't do the same thing that you did last year. Don't stay in that same mindset. It's almost like the text said, you cannot put new wine in old wineskins. So in other words, if we're going to bring it up to a modern day, you cannot have a clear mind and let's look at our bodies. In your body, you cannot put all that junk food, potato chips, and all of those type of things that we know are not good for us. We cannot put those things in our bodies and expect to be healthy. We cannot feed ourselves with negativity and expect a positive life. We cannot flood ourselves with all kinds of situations and beating up on ourselves and downing ourselves and saying that we can't be and we can't do and we can't say certain things and limitation and limiting ourselves. Because if a person goes around saying, I'm always down, I mean, there are people that walk around, and I really pray for those people, but they always have something negative to say. They always trying to bring other people down because they're unhappy with their lives. And I'm praying for those people, because some people, to be honest, and I'm very clear about this, some people are not going to ever change. They not, because they choose not to. Now, if they do, that's a blessing, but a lot of times people are not changing. They're not about transformation. Notice this in the text. The text says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you can prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And we have to begin to focus on, I love it, Christina, yes, positive thoughts. I love it. I love it, because that's what we need to be doing. It's all about how you think. God sometimes is not going to change our situation, but God will change us and change our mentality. Every situation may not change. I know we say, oh, well, I walk in all this power and I walk in all this authority. Yes, you do. But sometimes God's not going to allow the situation to change. You have to change. You have to look at it from a different perspective. Maybe it's something that you need to learn. Maybe it's something that Spirit or God is working out in you. Because I know that there was, there was a particular situation that I kept on praying, God, do this, God, do that, God, do this, God, do this. This was many years ago. And I was like, they're wrong, and they are, they don't do this, and they don't do that. And I start really complaining about what somebody doesn't do, what they don't say, all of these type of things. I began to do that and say that. And one day in my prayer and meditation time, God spoke to me clearly. And God said to me, it's not about them changing. It's about you changing. It's about you looking at the situation differently. Because the change, Reverend Glenda Ball, hey, if nothing changes, no changes happen. Yes, it starts with you. I love it. Nothing changes. Yes, it starts with you. But the point that I was making is that a lot of times I had to change. And guess what? And we may got to do a whole nother show on this too, because I think we may have to look at boundaries. Woo, I guess I'm on it today. Boundaries and expectations. We do not set appropriate boundaries and expectations. And for the people that are married that I deal with, even in my practice, and people that are, in relationships, we set unrealistic expectations and know that person cannot fulfill that expectation. We set these expectations up for people mentally. And a lot of times, to be honest, we don't even verbalize it. We make assumptions. Oh, I want them to say this to me. I want them to love me in a certain way. I want them to be this and to do that. And when they don't, we are disappointed, angry, and upset. I'm dealing with several couples now that have been married over 20 years, and half of them are not speaking to each other. They come into counseling because this is the last resort before divorce. And another thing, I know I'm all over the place, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Don't wait until your relationship is headed for divorce before you get some help. A lot of times people are waiting until they have 20 years of experiences together, but yet 20 years it's taken them to get to counseling. But the boundaries is the thing, and I'm trying to help somebody here. Boundaries, we got to be clear about healthy and appropriate boundaries. And make sure that you are able to verbalize those boundaries to people, that you're able to say what those boundaries are, that you're able to, but see, you got to start with yourself first, because a lot of times we don't understand ourselves. We say we want something because we are just picky people. One day we'll say, oh, I want this. The next day we want this. The next day we want that, because we're not clear mentally. This is what we're talking about, the benefits, the spiritual benefits of counseling. When you think about that, you got to get clear with yourself in order for something to work out in a spiritual sense. But to go back to my point, boundaries are so important, healthy boundaries, and not allowing people to just say whatever they want to say to you. Now, I'm not saying you got to go around cussing and being mean now. Let's be clear. But you can set appropriate boundaries with family. You can set appropriate boundaries with friends. You can set appropriate boundaries in your relationship and say, look, I'm going to go this far, but I can't go this far. Thank you, Christina. I love it. Thank you. You can go this far, but you can't go this far. All right? But the spiritual benefits of counseling are, number one, counseling helps you to seek counsel. All right? That's the first spiritual benefit of counseling. It helps you, and it also helps you to hear yourself. That's important. You got to be able to hear yourself, hear what you're saying. Because a lot of times we are living in our experiences. And I'm being honest, we don't hear ourselves. A lot of times people are, is that Ernest? Thank you for joining us, first-time watcher. Thank you. Sometimes we don't even hear ourselves. We don't even hear what we are saying. And so sometimes we need to go to counseling so we can get some of those stuff, some of those things, those processes, those feelings, thoughts, attitudes that we have out and lay them out on the table. Even with my couples, my married couples that I work with, I first start an assessment. I help them to lay out. What I say to them is, what is the issue from your perspective? And I have them to use what we call I statements. This is how I feel. When you did this, this is how it made me feel. And just getting that out, because a lot of times people are saying things, but we don't hear it. They don't hear what is being said. So have you ever been in a conversation and you're talking to somebody and you're really expressing your heart, you're really saying this is how you feel, and before you can even finish, they already have an answer, or they've already moved on to themselves? That's what I'm seeing a lot of times in the relationship counseling that I'm doing. They've already moved on. They've already cut you off. They've already dismissed what you said. Or they'll say to you, that ain't important. Or, I hear what you're saying, but I ain't even worried about that because it's about me. And people, that's what I want you to be aware of. But that's when we talk about appropriate boundaries. But when we talk about the spiritual benefits of counseling, we have to understand that everything begins with you. and getting your minds right. And counseling helps you to get your mind clear and your mind right. Thinking about the Bible when it talks about meditating on the word. And maybe that's a part right there that is a part of getting your mind right. Also, it talks about the word, that the word washes us and renews us. And I'm adding some words to it, but I'm trying to say a point here, is that the word washes us and helps us. And maybe part of that is definitely our minds. Some of us need to go on detox. The same way we have to detox our bodies and our systems and get some of the junk and some of the stuff we know we didn't, and we just had 2 holidays, and I know some of us, including myself, ate stuff that we know we didn't supposed to eat. So we have to detox those things out of our bodies so it won't be toxic, it won't be destructive. Same with your mind. You have to detox certain things out of your system. So counseling helps you to detox. That's number 2. Counseling helps you to detox things out of your system. So as we're going into the new year, we have to begin to detox those things that are no longer serving us. We have to begin to release those things that no longer serve us. Thank you, Dr. Francis. I see you. Yes. Yes. Faith is dead without works. Yes. Faith without works is dead. Yes. Jasmine, yes. Detox and rehab. That's what counseling is. It's part of rehab. Because we all have been hurt. We all have issues. We all have challenges. But that's what it does. We have to detox our systems. Cookie Payne, yes, you're going to be with us. Cookie is going to be with us on the third Saturday. So she's going to be joining us. So we're excited about that. So Happy New Year to you. But detox your system. Detox your mind. Clear your mind. That's number 2. But counseling helps us. And some of us today need to set up a counseling appointment with a licensed professional mental health person. All right? A mental health person to detox. But also, as I'm thinking about detox, I'm also thinking about meditation. Now, don't get all bent out of shape by meditation. Oh, that's new age. No. Sometimes we have to sit with ourselves. Be still and know that I am God. Sometimes we got to sit with things and allow Spirit, God, to speak to us, to help us to detox our minds. Because a lot of times in life, we're so busy doing and being. And sometimes we got to sit back and allow things to flow out of us that are no longer serving us. A lot of us have thoughts that are no longer serving us. A lot of us have stories that no longer serve us well. A lot of us have a self-image and a mentality that we've been told from childhood that are no longer serving us well. It's not helpful. It's not helping us. But counseling helps us to get to those areas and bring forth those things and help us to, as I said, number 2, detox. So it provides us, number 1, counsel, all right, because we need to know. We need feedback. We need consultation. But secondly, it helps us to detox those things out of our systems that are no longer helpful. There's a lot of things spiritually that we were taught early on. What we call it in seminary is called embedded theology. And basically all that is things that we've been taught about the Word, about the Bible, about religion, about spirituality, that were not, good theology. It wasn't helpful theology. But guess what? Sometimes people only do what they know. So I'm not downing some of the teachings that we've had over the years. But as we expand in consciousness, as we expand our minds, as we grow with technology, as we understand things more about our bodies and about medicine and about all kinds of things, God doesn't change, but our perspective, our understanding, our openness about certain things that years ago, I mean, look at it. Years ago, they told us that women couldn't preach, that women could not, carry the gospel. All right? And I'm not down in, that was a time period where a lot of people believed that, and they were not ordained women. But look at the new concept. It's not, God has not changed, but our mentality, our understanding of the scripture, our cultural understanding, our cultural relevance has changed. So our minds had changed. So we had to detox some of those things to say women couldn't do certain things, or women couldn't have certain jobs, or women couldn't do this or do that. But how many know women now? Women have always been powerful. If it wasn't for women, none of us would be here. So we got to just realize that we have to understand that our minds change, all right? And that we really have to understand that we have to detox from stuff, and counseling helps us to do that, all right? And third, the last point, counseling helps us to move toward our healing. Counseling helps us to move toward healing. And we were in corporate prayer on last night at Victory for the World Church, and I was, leading prayer and support. We have prayer every year there, and I was I was really in meditation and prayer and thinking about healing. And we don't talk about healing no more. A lot of times I'm not hearing it in my experience. But a lot of us need to be healed. And I think our healing starts not just in our bodies, but in our minds. And that's the call that I'm reaching out to a lot of people, because we need healing. We need to be healed of our minds. Yes, our bodies need to be healed, don't get me wrong, because many of us are experiencing all kinds of, and I do pray for healing, physical healing for a lot of people, that are experiencing all kinds of physical things. But the point that I'm making is a lot of us need a mental healing. And counseling, mental health counseling, helps us to get to those places where we need to be healed. Because we cannot function spiritually effectively when we are not focusing on our own healing. And that's my prayer today, is that you would get the healing that you need in your mind. That you would get the healing that you need in your mind so you can flow and be all that God has called you to be. That you can live, move, and have your being. And that you can be free from a lot of those childhood situations and development situations. And you don't have to be what they told you that you had to be. But you can be what God has called and commissioned you to be for such a time as this. And the world is waiting on us. I believe the world is waiting on the spiritual people and the church to get itself together mentally so we can then be able to work with people and really bring some healing for our land. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will we hear from heaven, and I'll forgive sin, and I'll heal the land. And the main part about that is we need a healing in the land. So there is a spiritual benefit to counseling. It brings about your healing. And that's the prayer today, is that we would get all of the healing. And I know I didn't even take a break because I was on this and I felt it, that we get the healing that we need. And this is what this show is all about. Therapeutic Conversations show is all about healing, healing of your mind. And I believe once you get your mind healed, your body and everything else follows. And what I mean by that is I've worked in hospice for many years. And Dr. Francis, too, on here, I know you can testify to this. A lot of times people physically are challenged in hospice. They're facing a terminal illness and a disease process that they're not getting cured of. But I've been with hundreds of families and hundreds of persons that have been in hospice. And I have seen hundreds of persons that even though their body was deteriorating and they were in pain and discomfort toward the last parts of their lives, I noticed one thing that was so powerful to me, that their minds were clear about where they were going, according to their belief, but also they walked in peace and blessings. And one particular family I would go visit, the mother of the family, the grandmother, mother of the family, she would say to me, she would say, "I'm still here, Brian, I'm still here." And I'm like, okay. She said, "I'm still here because God has some more work for me to do. But when that work is done, I'm gone. I'm finished. There's some more things I need to say. You know, physically I can't do anything right now, and that's fine. But there are so many other things that I have to say to my family and do. That's why I'm still here." And I'm telling you, once she completed that task, and she said what she needed to say to her family, she transitioned. But guess what? She transitioned in peace and love and blessing. And that's why I want to say to all of us, I think we can all learn, including myself, learn something from that. I don't care what experience you are experiencing, and I don't care what situation you may be encountering. You do not have to be a product of what you are encountering. But guess what you can do? The blessing is this. You can change your mindset and know that all is well. And just saying those words is therapeutic. Knowing that all is well, that all is okay in your mind. Even though your body may not be working the way you want it to work, you know that all is well, all is good, all is blessed. Notice what you're saying out of your mouth. That's the spiritual benefits of counseling, is what are you saying about yourself and your situation out of your mouth? What are you creating out of your mouth? And we want to create healing and blessings and peace. Speak words of healing over yourself. So as I recap, the three things that we are talking about when we're talking about the spiritual benefits of counseling is that we have to seek consultation, godly consultation, number one. Number two, we have to detox all of those things that have hindered us, have not been helpful for us, rewriting the story, all of those type of things we got to look at. All right, and then the last thing is the spiritual benefit of counseling is helping us with our healing. We need to be about healing. The Bible talks about the healing for the nations. And we need to be about healing. And we need to get healed so we can help others to get healed. We cannot heal people and work with people efficiently when we're not clear. When we haven't received. My prayer is always, God, give something to me so then I can give to others. Because I can't give to you if I'm broken. I can't help you if I'm not helped. I can't support you if I'm not being supported. So my prayer is, God, give us what we need, therefore we can then help others and be effective. That's where the transformation comes. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your mind needs to be renewed. And this is a new year for us. So let's get our minds together. Let's get counseling. Let's get the therapy that we need. Some of us may need medication. It's okay. Get the things that you need so you can be all. And I didn't even get to it on my paper, but Jesus talked about being whole. That's what they said in the New Testament, being whole. It wasn't just about your body being whole. It was also about their mindset being whole. Jesus spoke words of healing to people, and Jesus said be whole or be made whole. Be made whole is not just their body. A lot of them were experiencing body situations and things like that. But he was talking about also your mind. Be made whole. And that's the word today, even as we get ready to close. Be made whole. That's what is important, that your mind is part of your healing. And I want to thank you all today for joining me. Christina, Dr. Francis, my cousin Angela, Jasmine. There was so many other people. I just want to try to thank everybody real quick. Is it Stefan? No, Stephanie, I believe. Cookie. And who else? There were so many people just joining and saying things. I just want to make sure. Ernest, Christina, just everybody who's just showing me love today. And I appreciate you all. I really do. Keep me in your prayers, because even as we're doing this work, I just want to make sure, Digging Barbara Andrews, hello, from Victory. Simone is on, a high school friend and still a good friend. Be encouraged. Yes, and I just love all of you all. I'm so glad that y'all joined in. Please share, please like my page, Therapeutic Conversations Show. Brian Jones, you can like my page there. The Joshua Generation, Caring Consultant Services, and also the Foundation for Therapeutic and Spiritual Empowerment Services. So please like us, share it, send words. Everybody needs encouragement, and I'm just so honored that all these people got on and are listening to me talk today, and I appreciate this experience. And even as I go, I'm just going to go over those 3 points again and share these things. The benefits of spiritual counseling. Number 1, seeking counsel, wisdom, feedback. All right? Secondly, the benefits of counseling are that we have to detox. Counseling helps us to detox those things. And the third part is it helps us to go after our healing. Helps us to go after the healing that we need, so then we can bless other people. So I am so appreciative of this time, of this moment. And I also loving these comments, but I also want y'all to ask questions and everything too. So I appreciate the love and all of those things, those supportive. I'm so honored to be here on 108 Praise Radio with Courtney and the team. They've just been so supportive of me. And I also just want to give a shout out to Courtney, who is the owner here and who saw a light in me, because I was not going to do no radio show. I was not planning on doing no show, but I'm telling you, but he saw something in me. He was like, well, what's your show name? What's this? And I'm like, I got an idea, but I'm going to be honest with you. I was afraid to do a show. And I'm going to close, but I was afraid. And and I don't be afraid too often in my life, but I was afraid. I was like, nobody going to really listen to me. But see, notice what I'm saying, mentality. My mentality was that people were not going to listen. But look at God. Because I had to move, I had to get my mind right. In order even to do this show, I've done a lot of things in ministry, and I've been very clear and comfortable with those things. Honestly, very comfortable with those things. But I had to get my mind right in order to even do this show. Because I was like, nobody want to hear about mental health counseling. I wanted to do something entertaining, like completely entertaining. They had nothing to do with mental health. But guess what? God said no. And I'm honored today to be on 108 Praise Radio. And I'm honored by Courtney just seeing the vision and supporting my vision in this. And so thank you. I appreciate you all. Please like me on Facebook, Therapeutic Conversations Show. Please share it. Please share this message and know that there's spiritual benefits to getting counseling. Get your mind right. Seek counsel and get your healing and detox from all those things that are no longer helpful, those stories that are no longer helpful, those thoughts that are no longer helpful, so you can receive all that you need to be and want to be and desire to be in 2018. I'll see you next week. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting me, and I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Take care.
Jesus, you are my Savior. Jesus, you are my Savior. You gave your life for me. Jesus, you are my Savior. You gave your life for me. Paid the price on Calvary. Right, yeah, I like that. You are everything to me. You are beautiful, oh so wonderful. You are everything to me. You are holy, oh so worthy. You are all I'll ever need. 'Cause you are my love song, and I will sing to you. You are my Savior, and you shed your blood for me to save my soul and make me clean. Jesus, you are my Savior, and you gave your life for me. You paid the price of Calvary. You're incomparable. You're unchangeable. No one could ever take your place. You're unshakable. You're incomprehensible. No words could ever tell how great you are. 'Cause you are my love song, and I will sing to you. And you are my life song, and you are the rock I cling to. Jesus, you are my Savior. You shed your blood for me to save my soul and make me clean. Jesus, you are my Savior, and you gave your life for me to pay the price of Calvary. You are my love. Shed your blood for me to save my soul and make me clean. Jesus, you are my Savior. You gave your life for me to pay the price.